We're currently a few weeks away from the release of Halloween Ends, the final part of the new trilogy and the supposed end to the Halloween series, and things aren't looking good. Reports suggest the film's story will focus on an entirely new character, not the already established ones, and on top of this, the film will be released in both cinemas and on the Peacock streaming network on the same day. While I'm sure it's a crafty way for the studio to make even more money from the film, the optics don't look good. Going straight to streaming speaks of a lack of confidence in the film, and after Halloween Kills, who can blame them? Halloween Kills, the 12th movie in the series, isn't a good film. It could have been, but it's not. At this point in its history, the Halloween series is a mess. We have not one but 4 different timelines. The original timeline is made up of Halloween 1978, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, and Halloween 6. The second timeline tosses out Halloweens 4, 5, and 6 and begins a new series with the first 2 Halloween movies, adding Halloween H40 and Resurrection to the timeline. The 2 Rob Zombie Halloween movies make up the third timeline, and of course there's Halloween 3 Season of the Witch that belongs to no timeline at all except for my own twisted headcanon. Currently we find ourselves in the 4th timeline with only the original John Carpenter movie existing before the new films. In this timeline, Michael Myers and Laurie Strode are no longer brother and sister, and we now have a series that is often confused by the history of its franchise and the history within the story wants to tell. In the Halloween 2018 timeline, or Halloween H40 as I like to call it, Michael Myers escaped from hospital in 1978. He killed a mechanic on his way home before killing Annie, Bob and Linda, and was then captured by the Haddonfield police that Halloween night and locked away in a near catatonic state for the next 40 years. The new timeline establishes this, and makes sure to hang a lampshade on the fact that a mental patient killing 3 or 4 people 40 years ago is no big deal.
I mean, that is scary to have a bunch of your friends get butchered by some random crazy person.
Is it though? Because all things considered, there's a lot worse stuff that's happening today, and like, I mean, what, a couple people getting killed by one guy with a knife is not that big of a deal.
Dude, her grandmother was almost fucking murdered.
And she escaped, and they caught him, and now he's incarcerated. I'm just saying, like, by today's standards.
Just shut the fuck up, Dave. Shut up.
In H40, Michael Myers kills as many people before arriving in town than he did in the original film, and yet we're supposed to believe that Haddonfield, no matter how big or small a town it is still haunted by these events decades later. Perhaps the filmmakers are confusing the 4 deaths in the original film, 5 if you include his sister in the prologue, as the overall kill count of plus 100 in the entire series. It's no wonder Haddonfield is so scared of Michael Myers if that's the case. And yet as the events of Halloween Kills play out, we see a town of gun-crazed Haddonfielders mob up and go on the hunt for Michael Myers. Led by child victim turned world's worst beat poet Tommy Doyle, the town folks set out hunting down the Shape, forgetting to use their cell phones, and that Michael Myers looks nothing like Danny DeVito. Even being responsible for the death of an innocent man, they remain undeterred and come to a predictable and somewhat satisfying end when they finally track down the Shape. Halloween Kills is stupid. But there is a kernel of a good idea there, and I believe with a few changes, Halloween Kills can be transformed from the worst Halloween movie to a passably good one. So if you'll indulge me, here is how Halloween Ends could have been. The movie begins in much the same way. Cutting out the unnecessary, although well done Donald Pleasant's deepfake cameo, we begin at Laurie Strode's house. Picking up from the events of H40, firefighters are on the scene. As in the released film, Michael is freed from his cage and lays waste to the first responders. He stands victorious amid the blood and flames, and we cut to the opening titles. It's now 1 year later. After killing the firefighters, Michael Myers vanished. Lockdowns and a manhunt ensued, but the Shape remains at large. Michael now has a kill count of 29 victims, 25 taking place at H40 alone, and Haddonfield is suitably on edge. Even though Michael's face has been plastered all over town, some careful camera work will keep his face hidden from the audience, Haddonfield has become fearful of every visitor. We see this in an early scene where a couple of outsiders are practically run out of town. Sheriff Barker and his entire department have been fired for their spectacular failure to protect Haddonfield, and a new sheriff has been installed, an outsider. Laurie now lives with her daughter and granddaughter, and she's gotten even more hardcore since the last film. H40 proves she was right, and several town folks see her as the only voice of authority in town. Allison has grown closer with her grandmother, becoming one of her converts, along with her faithful lieutenant Tommy Doyle. But Karen hasn't fared so well. She's turned to the bottle to deal with the loss of her husband. Laurie and Allison know with Halloween only 1 day away, the Shape will once again resurface. The town needs to prepare, but the new sheriff only sees Laurie and her followers as troublemakers. Michael Myers is gone, and nothing will happen on Halloween. Meanwhile, we get a quick scene of the outsiders that will run out of town. They're staying at a house outside of Haddonfield. The husband speaks about a nice old couple that live next door. He hopes to see them again, but the wife catches sight of a strange man out back of the neighbour's house, and is suitably freaked. At the same time, we learn that Haddonfield has decided that all Halloween events will be cancelled. Be it out of fear of the shape or respect for those that died, this doesn't sit well with Allison's ex-boyfriend Cameron. He wants to party, and doesn't see how 25 people dying last year should get in his way. Allison gets wind of this and tries to talk him out of it, but he shines her on. Cameron will get no redemption in my version of Halloween Kills. Allison informs her grandmother and Tommy of Cameron's plans. Tommy, an old family friend, goes to Cameron's father, Lonnie, and tells him of his son's plans. We get Lonnie's backstory here and how it connects to Michael Myers, much the same way in the final film. But instead of a heart-to-heart, Lonnie smacks some sense into his son. This doesn't dissuade Cameron. It only sets his plans in stone. In this scene, we also get a sense that Cameron has suffered a history of abuse from his father and has a deep well of hatred for him. This will be important later. The next day dawns. It's Halloween. Dozens of families pack up their cars and leave town just in case. The outsider of the vacation house sees this and finds it funny they're scared of the boogeyman. He then pays a visit to his kindly old neighbours and comes across their bodies. They've been dead for a while. He then finds Michael's mask and, putting two and two together, flees the house to call the cops. But an unmasked Michael is blocking his way. A fight ensues. The outsider is no match for Michael. He watches helplessly as Michael puts on the mask and becomes a shape once more, and is then killed. Michael then kills the outsider's wife and takes their car. Night falls, and the killings begin. It's at this point Halloween Kills is free to become mostly the movie it was. The townfolk posse up and the police are ill-equipped to stop them. Michael kills victim after victim on his way to his childhood home and the waiting third act. As we near the third act, we find ourselves in Cameron's house. Lonnie is drunk and watching television, unaware the shape is in his house. The shape quickly dispatches Lonnie, and as he dies, he watches as the shape removes his mask to reveal Cameron. With Michael Myers on a killing spree, this is the perfect opportunity for Cameron to take out his abusive father once and for all. But a dark look crosses his face, and we get the sense that Cameron isn't done killing. As we reach the end of the film, we find the shape returning to his childhood home. He kills Big John and Little John, while at the same time Allison comes face to face with her second shape while on patrol. With Cameron cosplaying, there's some confusion as to which shape is which, but as Allison finds back, it becomes clear that Cameron is her attacker. Pissed at their breakup and her making him look like a fool for a year, Cameron wants Allison dead. He gets the upper hand and puts the mask on to finish her, only for Laurie to arrive and shoot him dead. At the same time, Karen confronts Michael at his childhood home. She's the only person able to piece together that this is where Michael was headed to in H40. She puts up a good fight, but Michael is able to get the best of her. My version of Halloween Kills ends in much the same way, with Karen's death, but in a more understandable way. There are a few more steps to how Karen got from the bottle to the third act, scenes that establish that Karen has been planning this for a while, but Blumhouse isn't paying me to put them together, so I'm afraid you'll have to use your own imagination. In the final scene of the film, Laurie and Allison find her body, but no Michael. He's in the wind again until the events of Halloween ends. But we've now set up a mystery as to why he returned to his childhood home in the first place and what his end goal is. And we've also set Laurie on her course, destroying Michael Myers once and for all, even if she has to die in the process. So what do you think? Does this improve Halloween Kills? Does it fix some of the problems you had with the film? We now have a more justified and in-movie reason for the mob mentality of the townsfolk. Laurie has more to do than spend 2/3 of the film in bed, having had a year to recover from the events of H40. And we stand a chance to do something more with the legacy character of Tommy Doyle, other than being the single most annoying character in the franchise's history. Ultimately, I think there was a good film in Halloween Kills, but I'm at a loss as to why the filmmakers chose to tell it in the way they did. And while my concerns for Halloween Ends remain, I'll still go and see how this version of the series brings an end to the story of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. Until next time, I'm Russell Lee.